Yo, welcome to Sig Slayers, the comic interview show, period. I'm Mike the Sig Slayer, chilling with Mark the Honorable Villain. What up, fam?
What's up, Mike? We have with us today one of the greatest artists, entrepreneurs, and inspirations in the world. Let them know who we got, man.
Joining us today, we have one of the Image founders, the legend, Todd McFarlane. But before we chat with the Todd father, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and please comment. All right. Our next guest is one of the most important figures in all of comics. You've seen his work in the Detective Comics, Amazing Spider-Man, Hulk, and is the creator of Spawn. He is one of the founding fathers of Image Comics. I repeat, he is one of the founding fathers of Image Comics. Ladies and gentlemen of the Stash Land, we bring to you the Todd father, Todd McFarlane. Todd,
what are you guys doing? How's everything doing today?
Fantastic. We're glad to have you. We're going to just dive right on in.
All right.
We ask this question to everybody that joins us.
Oh, I know. Bob Gibson, 1962, in the third game of the World Series. Did I nail it?
Nope.
Not yet.
Oh man.
Since it's your first time, Todd, we'd like to get your comic origin story. And we interviewed Steve Englehart last year.
Yeah.
We would like to get how you got your first job in pro comics. How'd you get it?
Well, very quickly, I didn't start collecting comics till I was about 16. So I was a late bloomer. Sort of fell in love with them. And then I was a constant doodler, and I didn't have any style at that point. And then I looked at these comic books and went, man, these are kind of cool. I'm gonna train myself to draw Americana superhero comics. I did for the next few years. Went to college. When I was at college, sent out hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of samples. And then over the course of a few years, a couple of weeks before I graduated, I got a phone call from Marvel that they had an Epic line, and they wanted to know if I wanted to do a backup story. Actually, the guy who phoned was Steve Englehart.
Exactly.
Right. So Steve was on the phone because you had Marvel, and then Marvel had the Epic line, and then the Epic line had some kind of co-ownership. The person creating it had some ownership, was with Steve Englehart, and then Steve it was a book called Coyote, and he needed somebody to do a backup. So I was literally down in the mail room. I was down here. But to me it was like one of the great days of my career, of going, man, I'm in, and I'm working for Marvel comic books. So it was a big day to be able to talk to Steve that day, and then it just went from there. Look, all you ever ask for, I'm a sports guy. All you ever ask for is for the coach to put you on the field. That's all you can do. You just work, you hustle, and you just go, coach, put me on the field. And then if you can convince the coach to put you on the field, it's all on you. Because now the coach has done his job. He's given you opportunity, and now let's see if you're a player, right? So at that point, Steve gave me a break, and then it was all on me to see if I could give them what they were looking for. And given that I wasn't very good, what I knew I could give them was I could meet deadlines. And that in our industry is arguably over 51% of the equation.
Your last DC project was DC Invasions Book 1 and 2, the first appearance of the Metahuman. During this time, you signed this book for me. You said during this time, it's like 87, you was doing Spider-Man and DC Invasion around the same time, and I'm trying to figure out how the hell did you do it?
No, it was actually crazier than that. I was doing Spider-Man bi-weekly and doing it. So let me tell you, because I remember that time, because it was a moment of clarity at some point. I was doing like the double-sized Invasion book, and I was doing 2 Spider-Man books, right? I was pushing out, normally you do 20 pages, I was pushing out close to 100. Here's what I'll say. I became aware at that point that all the work was suffering somewhat, right? I couldn't put my heart into any of it because I was scrambling to get so many pages out. And so I did it. But I vowed that I'd never put myself in that position again, right? Because I've learned for myself, and I think this is probably true for most of us, you have to learn what kind of a juggler you are. And I say that metaphorically because no matter how good of a juggler you are, even somebody at Circus du Soleil, if you go up in Vegas, they have a maximum amount of balls they can juggle. They might be able to do 30, which is phenomenal because most of us can only do 2 or 3. They can do 30, but everybody has a max. And when you hit your max, guess what happens? You don't drop that last ball. All the balls drop, right? And what the metaphor is that I learned that when I added too much to my juggling, the work suffered, a little bit of your health suffers, your personal relationship suffers, everything goes down a notch. And I just go, I won't do that. I won't do that to the people that I care for. I won't do that to myself. And I'm not going to do it to the fans and give them subpar work. So that was a big wake-up call for me.
Todd, we talked about the past. Now I want to talk about the future. Let's talk about the expansion of the Spawn universe with the upcoming release of Bloodletter and She-Spawn. What new flavors does Bloodletter and She-Spawn bring to the Spawn universe?
Well, you're using the right word, flavor, right? One of the things that I'm trying to do within the Spawn universe is to create different characters and different types of stories that may be of interest to people potentially outside the core of a Spawn fan, right? Ideally, I'd like to have 4, 5, 8, 10, books, literally hundreds of characters, but you don't have to necessarily be a Spawn fan to enjoy the universe, right? I'm probably doing a disservice calling it the Spawn universe. I should be calling it like whatever, the Image universe. I can't do it, like the McFarlane universe, right? That would be more generic, that puts all these characters in here. But if you saw some of the earlier books that we came out with, that I want to do everything from crazy, fun, goofy stuff like Spawn kills everyone, sort of a fun little Mad Magazine type thing, all the way to things like Sam and Twitch and Misery, which are, really grounded as much as I possibly can. They're almost like R-rated dramas. And then you have all the sort of the action stuff in between. The 2 books you're talking about with the Bloodletter by Joseph and Christian, they came to me with an idea, wanted to sort of upgrade some of the characters that were there in the stories and just bring a different angle that isn't sort of super heroic, if you will. I mean, again, look, I like costume superhero books as much as anybody else, but a steady diet of them, I outgrew that eventually. Even when I was, early in my career, I just I need a little bit more in my reading diet. And so Bloodletter, that brings in a new character, and then Gail Simone's She-Spawn. The conversation I had with her was, I'm less concerned, and this is kind of true about all my characters, I'm less concerned about how strong they are and who they can beat up as to like what's happened to them when they're not fighting. Like who are they? Who are these people, right? I think that if you get to know certain characters, what they're sacrificing, then you go, oh, and you don't even have to agree with the sacrifice they're making. You can just go, well, that's selfish, or I don't give a shit. But at least you now know what that character is fighting for, so that when that sort of comes at risk, then it's a tough life. I think that like what's more interesting to me isn't the victory of the heroes, it's the journey that they all go through, and what do they have to give up? I think being a hero in comic books should be hard. I don't think it should be an easy thing. Oh, I now can lift a car over my head, so I now have no problems in life. I don't want to make it Peter Parker that it's like you can't find a girlfriend or whatever else. But we all have personalities, and I want those personalities to come to the forefront. So that's what those books are going to do.
Todd, Spawn is one of, if not the most popular comic book title with the African American lead, and this was since
the most.
The most. I'm just trying to be the most. I'm just throwing out there. I feel you. I said the most.
For this short conversation, we'll call it the most. There.
The most. Okay. I'm with you. What went into that decision, though, Todd? What year was it that you created Spawn? Can you remember can you pinpoint the year you created Spawn?
Yeah, 1977. I still have the pages from the 40-page comic book I was going to do. All right. Matter of fact, I was running it around to a couple of retailers going, would you guys buy? You think there'd be any interest, let's say when issue 400 comes out of Spawn, of me actually going back to that 40-page story, which I still have, and have Todd, the 16-year-old artist on it, but Todd, the vet writer, inker on top of him, and then put literally the very first Spawn story ever out in print when I was 16, 17, right? Just for nothing else, just because it'd be interesting. So, and they all went, yeah, we'd buy it, Todd. So look for it. So 1977 is when I created the character. And then obviously 1991, just before we went up to Marvel in December of 91 to tell them we were quitting. I had to get serious about the stories and what it was all going to be about. The original story I was talking about when I was 16 was set in the future. I brought it back into modern times. And really the impetus of it was some of the stuff that had been going on in Spider-Man that was sort of curious to me, that I never got to scratch those itches. And then just in all honesty, just at that point I was 30. I have a pair of eyes and I've got ears, and I just saw the world around me. And the simple question was, why not? Why not? Why not? I looked and I just saw an abundance of fair-skinned superhero. Okay, there's not like there was a lack of them. So I just went, why can't there be more diversity? I would, but here's what I'm going to say as a white cracker Canadian, is that I don't mean to speak for the Black community on any level. I haven't lived any of those experiences. I've observed some up close. So that's all I could do. I didn't want to, and this is either a plus or a negative, I guess it depends on your perspective. I didn't want to make it an issue. I just wanted him to be a hero, period, right? Period. I mean, Martin Luther King just said, judge us by our what we do, right? Like our actions and who we are, forget the rest. And that was sort of the impetus of that. And the easiest way, sadly, to sort of get people distracted from that was like very early in the game, I burnt his skin. And I go, I'm going to get rid of the silliness, which is pigmentation, right? Like we make such a big deal out of that piece, right? Underneath the pigmentation of the skin, the organs are all the same for us, right? Like, I don't understand it. We all crave the same thing. We'd like to sort of have love in our life. We'd like to have friendship. We'd like to have shelter, and we'd like to sort of not be caught up in, I think, sort of famine and war, right? Okay, cool. I think sort of we all have the same general wants and needs. And I just want, hey, what if I took a guy and I knew intellectually, we all know intellectually, he wasn't gonna be a classic white guy. And I take away the skin and I cloak him from head to toe. Because this idea came when I was doing Spider-Man. because I go, how do they even know who he is underneath that costume? And then just let him go. And I know, I've said it before, I knew the first time I knew it was kind of working, at least the way I want it. Again, we can debate whether the path I took was right or wrong. But I knew it was working when I was in Texas. I did a show, and a couple good old boys, you know those dudes with the cowboy hat. Mm-hmm. They came up and they were like super happy. It was early in the Spawn run, and the one guy went, Todd, you know that Spawn? He's one of my favorite guys right now. And I went, oh, good. No, I appreciate that. And I go, and you remember that's a black man too, right? And he stopped, and he turned to his buddy, his other cowpoke buddy, and it was this moment where it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Now again, I don't know whether that was a positive or negative for him. But it was the first time where I went, oh, they're just looking at Spawn as a cool hero. Keep it up, Todd, because you might be able to get sort of more people to get colorblind, but I had to do it by stripping them off and put a cloak over them. But anyways, we got there, and now I think it's been fast forward 30 years, and he just Spawn. No, I don't think anybody thinks about it.
Did you see Image Comics evolving into the best pound for pound publisher in all of comics?
No, I don't think any of us did. In all honesty, I mean, I'd be curious what the answers are. My other founders, but I don't think so. I think the story's been told a lot, but we left because we wanted personal freedom to do what we wanted creatively, right? And for us, the original 6 of us, we were all doing superhero comic, right? So that was our thing we were doing. And so we just took what we knew and what we were good at, and we just moved it over to this thing called Image, and we just did it the way we wanted. But we didn't have, and at that point, and we weren't sort of thinking long term, we weren't saying that like it should only be superhero comic books done the way you want. We wanted people to do comic books, period. Forget the superhero. Comic book the way they saw fit. And we'd give you a safe haven. And then once we sort of said that, obviously people were emulating us at the beginning. So you had things like Pitt and the Max and things like that. But as time went by, then, sort of outsiders who couldn't break into superhero comic books, who didn't have the formula that they were looking for at Marvel and DC, were still looking for a home. And we thought that they had something to say on the pages. And so we put them out. Can't say that they were all home runs by any stretch over the 30 years. But what it did do was it sent a message that we're open for business if you've got an idea that's outside of sort of the norms of Marvel DC. That was it. And even what we were doing as the creators, we're open to that too. We're looking for like-minded people who want to have creative freedom. That's it. That was the only criteria at that point.
Todd, you're talking about creative freedom. Companies like Top Cow, Skybound, and Ghost Machine are all imprints under Image Comics. How are all these companies able to keep their autonomy under Image Comics?
Oh, it's easy. Because I know early on there was a ton of confusion, and I would argue even today there's still a little bit of confusion. So let me see if I can simplify it real quickly. You have to think of, let's just go back to the original founders. There were 6 of us. Each one of us was 2 entities. We were our own people doing our own creative stuff. And then we were executives at this company called Image Comic Books, right? Which basically meant, so I'll use me as an example because I can talk about that guy. I could do Spawn and any idea I wanted, any books I wanted, whatever else. I would just do it under my banner of Todd McFarlane Productions. And then all those books would then get printed under Image, of which I just happen to be the president, right? So okay, the average person though, minus the executives that are doing books, so let's say all the people working on, let's say Ghost Machine books, they're not executives, right? But they have 100% autonomy to do whatever they want. We made one rule, a couple rules, but the big one was at the very beginning, is that Image will own nothing. And if you own nothing, then you don't get to tell people anything, right? The only thing we kind of tell people now is you have to have so many pages done before we'll solicit it, because we don't want to look like fools saying that it's coming out and it doesn't. We want to have some of the pages in our hand before you start basically going on vacation. Minus that, we already know you've done the pitch. We've already signed off on the book. Our job isn't to tell you how to make your book bigger, better, faster, whatever you want to do, prettier. Like, if you want to ask, we'll give you our opinion, but that's all it is. And then you, the creative person, you own, this is going on the field. You own all your actions now that you're on your field, now that you're on the field. We're just a coach. And if you succeed or fail with your book, to some extent, it's on your shoulders. It's your book. You did it the way you saw fit, the way you wanted it. You hired and the writers and the artists and the letters. You put the price that you wanted, and you created the characters. So if people don't want that, that's on you. If they do want it, then good on you. That's on you. That's on you too. So Image owns, just to be clear, Image owns nothing. We own a couple computers and a couple desks, but short of that, we don't. If either of you were to bring a book to us, you would own 100% of that book. We would get a flat fee for helping you to get that book out. And then if your book turns into the next Walking Dead, that's yours. We don't get the t-shirt money. We don't get the hat money. We don't get the video game money. We don't get the Hollywood and TV money. We don't get any of it. That's yours. And what that deal is, it's the exact deal that we came up with, that we gave ourselves, the original 6. We gave ourselves the best deal we could come up with personally. And then we said, and we're going to share this deal with everybody else. You own everything. Unlike Apple, who says, hey, you own your music, but if they download it off our platform, we get 30%, which is basically means they own 30% of the Beatles every time they play one of those, right? No. We shouldn't prosper on that. We should do our work, get paid for it, which is to solicit, do the accounting, collect the bills, make sure the printers and the trucks are moving your product around. And then if you have a runaway best hit, you should prosper, not us.
Okay, so now we're going back to the 90s for a second, because you're the most qualified person that we have access to right now. The 90s represent the pinnacle of comic book sales, and I don't think it would ever be surpassed. 6-figure comic book sales were like water back then. Todd, you have 2 of the top 10 top-selling comic books of all time, Spawn #1, Spider-Man #1. In your opinion, what was it about the 90s why people were picking up comics so much?
Well, I think there's 2 things. Number one, at that point, there was a big speculative market growing. It kept getting bigger and bigger. And so we probably hit, again, the apex of that about 93, 94. So Image got out of the gate with the thunderclap during all that. There also were about, I want to say at that point, there were close to like 12,000 comic stores, right? Today, there's maybe like 2,100, 2,200, right? So just do the math. If you lose 5/6 of the stores, then you're going to just, by easy math, you're going to lose 5/6 of your sales, right? Superman did, Batman did, Spider-Man did, like Spawn did, everybody did, right? Why? Because there just weren't as many stores buying it. And so the question is, and it was a bigger sort of debate back then, where did all those people go? Again, we're talking about the early 90s. We're talking about the advent of the internet, right? Easy plays of GameStop's come along. Video games are getting to be sort of big deals. Cable is thriving on TV, and then eventually sort of streaming. Like with the people found other options to spend their money. And I think we as an industry did a poor job of sort of facilitating those that were there. And we tried to, I think, squeeze them and take everything we could, right? I have a theory that you don't drink and turn on the spigot and get water unless you're thirsty. Just turning it on for the sake of turning it on, which basically, in the metaphor, is just making money for sake of making money. I could make money 50 different ways today if I wanted to. I could pick the pockets of fans 50 different ways if I wanted to today. I don't. Why? Because I'm not thirsty. I don't need the money. Someday I may be in a bad position and I may be in a cash crunch, and to keep the creative people going and or the employees or myself going, I may need some money. And so then I can turn on the spigot, and guess what? The spigot won't be dry. You know why? Because I wouldn't have been picking people's pockets for the last 20 years. So when I ask them for a favor saying, hey, I got this cool thing, I think if I'm loyal to my fans, I think they will be loyal back. And I hope to keep that relationship going to the day I die. Just getting cash for the sake of cash is abusive. And I think we did it as an industry. When the speculators came in, we went, oh man, we're going to do books, and we're going to do holographic books, and we're going to do this book, and we're going to do bag books, we're going to do, and everything, you buy it at $2 and it went up to $10, and then a month later it was back down to $2, right? But people were buying it at 10 and finding out that they were getting 80% of their stock was going down. And I think people just want, I'm not going to be taken advantage of. If I'm going to spend $10, I want $10 of value. I don't want to buy something at $10. It's going to go down to $2. And so they left. Shame on us. Shame on us as an industry. So, and I haven't done it myself. I at least very little. I don't try to play that game. I mean, again, people have been asking me for 30 years, when are you going to renumber Spawn? Never. I think it's a con. Number one, I think it's a con. Number two, just ask the simple question. I think people are blinded by it. It's like, oh, it's an easy jumping on point. I disagree. But ask the simple question. With all the starts and stops of Spider-Man, and I don't even know how many number ones you can buy now, and all the number ones you could buy of Fantastic Four and whatever else they've done, and all the restarts of Batman and stuff, are they selling more comic books than they were 25 years ago? No. So I don't care what tricks they've done, because at the end of the day, they're not selling more comic books than they were 25 years ago. So why would I repeat things that are basically getting us less sales? At least if I'm going to get less sales, I'm going to do it on my own terms. And oh, by the way, it's how you get to issue 300, right? Like, I don't understand. There was a point when Marvel and DC restarted all their books, and Spawn was the highest numbered book in the industry. Now just think about it for a moment. It started in 1992. Comic books have been doing superhero comic books since 1938, and they let me pass them number-wise. Dude, you walk into any room outside of comic books and you say, hey, I got the longest running comic book, or you just tweak it a little bit, and they're like, what? Like, ears will perk up. Why would you give me marketing tools of saying, shoot, I've got the biggest running, because people on the outside aren't going to ask any intellectual questions. They're just going to go, oh man, if you got the longest running book, it must be one of the better books or whatever. So I don't know. Spawn's just going to keep chugging, and there's not going to be an issue number one. So stop asking whoever's out there. It's not while I'm alive. Not happening while I'm alive.
Man, Todd is cooking. All right. Now this is another question. This is for the aspiring self-publishers. Image Comics, you guys represent the pinnacle of success stories when it comes to self-publishing. You guys are a bunch of artists and just did your own thing. What advice could you give people that are trying to self-publish today? What challenges should they be aware of? Whatever comes to mind, Todd.
Here's what I would say. I know it's not easy, right? Just again, let's just do the math, right? Marvel puts out 150 books. DC puts out 100 books. We put out 50 books, whatever. So combined, maybe there's 5, 6, 7, 800 books. Maybe I'm using a big number per month, right? Which means that you need 800 writers to do 800 books. And sometimes some of those books are written by the same person. They're doing 2, 3, 4, 5 books. So you don't need 800, but let's just say that you need one for each one. You need 800 people to write those 800 books in a world filled with 8 billion, right? So, I never really thought about us being sort of elite because I go, oh man, look at that Formula One. They only got so many drivers, right? Oh man, look at that in the NBA. They only got 12 people times 30. I mean, you can just do the math. These are the number of people on the planet that are playing at the highest level. Doing sort of books for Marvel and DC, I mean, like across the country, I mean, you can almost count like on hands how many people you need. So I know it's hard. The upside though, saying that it's hard, which is good because again, the old adage from the movie A League of Their Own, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it.
Right.
So the upside of it is that because it is hard and because the sales are down, from where they were in like the crazy levels of the 90s, if you can find your foothold with your book, no matter where it's at, what company, or even if you self-publish, if you can get a little bit of a bump, you're not really that far away from some of the sales from some of the big companies. And so, okay, and then you just say, hey, can I then take my thing that I did 3, 4, 5 issues and then show them the data and say, hey, whatever company that isn't Marvel DC, I've got this other book that's kind of eclectic. And I think you guys should be doing it because I'm doing it on my own and I'm making a good living. I just think I can make a better living and have a better audience if I had a little bit more help from people that are doing it on a more sort of grander scale. That's it. So there's no magic equation. Let me also say, and I say this with complete honesty, thank goodness I got in before the internet, right? Because the skill level that is out there, now that the world is open, now that we know that there are people in almost every country that want to do comic books, that skill level is phenomenal today. We were just ignorant of that when I was breaking in because we didn't know they existed. We didn't know people wanted to draw comic books and do comic books in Russia and Korea and Poland and Spain and Portugal and Brazil and Mexico. We didn't know it because they were hidden. And now they're not hidden anymore. So now game on, right? But again, I'm guessing if you want to be a singer, you're running into the exact same thing too, right? Now you got to sing against the rest of the world, where before maybe you were just singing maybe in a 40 mile radius out around Nashville if you want to be a country singer. Now the whole world can send in their demo tape. So yeah, it's not for the faint of heart, but if you can do it, man, it's a good career.
Todd, I want to talk to you about something I interviewed you about last year at Comic-Con. It was right after the announcement of the script for King Spawn.
Yep.
Can you explain to us the responsibilities with ushering in this upcoming Spawn movie, and what are the challenges of releasing a Hollywood film?
Well, you already know the answer, given that I found Jason Blum to come on board to help me. And that was in, I think we announced that 2017. Here we are, we sit here at 2025, 8 years later, eight years. Now, again, there was a 3-year pandemic in there, okay, and there was a writer's strike, so you can sort of cut some of that time out, maybe cut it in half, but it's still a long, arduous process. And that's for arguably the most popular comic book not called Marvel and DC, right? And especially in the last 20, 30 years in terms of raw sales of a superhero character I'm talking about. So yeah, I don't know. Hollywood right now is in an interesting place. They have contracted because people, again, aren't going to movies like they were. So now the money flow is there. And if you don't have as much money, you can't buy as many shows. You can't do as many things. So everything's getting cut. I mean, I'm sitting here in California. I talk to you, and I know lots of people in that industry, and I can see the look and the way they talk of how steep their mountain has gotten in trying to basically make a steady living. But you just grind it. You just grind and grind and grind. Look, I had a face-to-face, a meaningful face-to-face with a director a few weeks back who wants to go. And I've been going back and forth for the last few months with lawyers on making sure the contracts are just right. It's just taken way too long, but I gave them a deadline of the middle of this month, right? We either get it done or I'm going back to my original plan where I just gonna do a low budget movie that I write, produce, and direct. So if we want to do something more grand than that, then it's time for everybody to shit or get off the pot here. And so that's it. But it's still it's crazy how slow those gears turn. Right. But the upside is, let me just say, the upside is that every now and then a movie comes along and gives me hope that it's there is an audience, right? And so if you wait long enough, the latest one is this movie called Sinners, right? And I think Sinners plays because I think it has some of the elements that hopefully we'll have in the Spawn movie. We'll have drama, right? We'll have characters you care about. We'll have, some cultural themes in it. We'll have not an abundance of sort of supernatural, but enough to make sure that people are entertained, and then put enough jeopardy into it. So I'm going, oh man, my kids took me to that movie and I was like, oh man, I see why people like it, but just dissecting it, I go, they put this Molotov cocktail together that worked, and I go, oh cool. So maybe now that those types of movies are helpful, because then when you walk in trying to sell yours, you can use those as examples of what we're trying to accomplish.
Since the passing of the great Stan Lee, you are the foremost ambassador of comics in the whole world. Can you predict the future of print comics? In other words, how soon are we to a complete digital first release to everything? Everything, there's no more shelves.
I don't think it happens. I don't think it happens. And here's why I say that. And I could be wrong. I'd be more than happy to debate with somebody. When digital comic books first came, everybody in the industry got nervous. Why? Because they saw what it did to record stores, right? You go digital, record stores went out of business. You go digital with movies, all of a sudden there's no Blockbuster video where you can go and rent from, right? And so they thought that the same thing was going to happen for a comic book store, which at the beginning, I don't know if you guys remember, the book would come out and then a month later, 2 months later, a long time, it was like a DVD movie release. Then the digital version would come out, because somebody said, if you ever do day and date, that's it, that's doomsday. And then eventually somebody tried it, and I knew they would, because there's a company called Disney, and they have to try everything they can to maximize their profits. So they did it. They wanted to know, well, is it going to hurt, or is there an abundance one way or the other? And what they found when we went day and date, that the sales of comic books, physical comic books, went up. And here's why I say I don't think they go away. I'm not saying that there won't be an equal thing next to them, but I see my digital data, and I got to tell you, we're 20 years into digital comic books, and it accounts for maybe 5% of my sales, right? So if it was gonna happen, it wouldn't take 20, 30 years to happen. It would have happened just like what happened in all those other tech industries. So, and here's why I think they're missing the piece they're missing. When you go to a show, people bring you your work. They don't bring you a shot of your head. They don't bring you your DVD. They bring you your book. And if it was all digital, what are they giving you? What are they getting signed? And so I just think that we have been raised, and it's in our DNA, that it's like, if for no other reason, even if you never go to a comic book convention, you think you might. So you go, I got to have my comic book convention. And two, even if you're going to sell your collection, what are you going to sell digitally? What do you, like, this is the piece. I'm like, so what? So you got a big digital collection. Who's buying it, right? The value of those books are still going to be there. And I think the romantic version of them, and why people bring me my toys and my comics when I'm at shows, I don't think that's going away. And so there's always going to be the need for it.
Love it. McFarlane Toys transcends comic book properties. Whose idea was it to make action figures for the various sports leagues? And how did you get that going, man? Because that's my exposure to McFarlane Toys, was my Green Bay Packers.
Well, the toy company was started on a simple premise. Why can't toys just be cooler, right? I mean, that was the easy question. Like, I don't get it. And at some point, if nobody's doing it, then you just go, shit, I'll just do it myself then, right? I mean, like, nobody's doing me any favors, I'll do my own favor. And then within that, once I got started, then there are a couple of truisms, location, and stick to what you know. So, which is why 97% of what I talk about in interviews is me and my life, because I don't know about anybody else's life, but I know mine, and I know why I did everything. But I am a sports guy, right? I just since I was 10 years old, just I'm a geek on all things sports, especially the four major sports. And so it was like I was looking at the Kenner starting lineups, and they were terrible. I mean, they were just terrible. And to the point that it was infuriating. Look, I'm a collector, and I like sports, and I like to collect. And I'll die before I buy one of those toys. That's insulting. You're insulting me. And so I don't think that the idea that I had, which is, why can't they actually look like the players? I'm going to guess there was probably 10 million people that were saying the same thing in their head. They just didn't have the opportunity to start their own company like I did. Otherwise, they would have. I think they would have. They would all beat me to the punch. So the reason that it worked was because people were going, finally somebody's doing. There were many people that were thinking like me. Why can't it look like my baseball card? Why can't it look like that poster? Why can't it look like that picture in the newspaper? I don't know. The answer is it can. The bigger mystery, and we'll uncrack it maybe someday, is, I keep saying, is why didn't they make it look like that, right? Like, all the reference was there. Like I said, the camera's been around a long time, and it was staring them in the face, and they couldn't fucking get out of their own way. They were like, no. And the reason I'm a businessman now. I actually understand the reasons. I don't understand why they got to look ugly, but I understand the other reason. They can't give each guy his own batting gloves with his own designs and stuff, because that would cost them money. That each time you put a hit of spray on there, it's a penny. So if they got 3 colors on their batting glove, that's 3 cents. If you just make them without gloves, you only got to paint it whatever color flesh they are, and that's 1 cent. You just save 2 cents. And if you're making millions of units, it matters. So if they've got 3 stripes and you put no stripes, you just saved another 3 cents, right? So it was, you don't have to put the captain's mark on their jersey. That's another 2 cents, right? They count pennies, they add the pennies, and then they multiply it by tens of millions of units. And that's why they do that. Why? Because they didn't think that toys were going to be collectible. They just thought that kids were buying them. So it's like mom and their 6 and 7 year olds don't care. As long as it says Batman, and he's got pointy ears and he's got a symbol, then that's Batman. But now you get 14 years old, not so, whoa, Tex, not so easy now, right? I've seen the movies, I've seen the TV, I played the video games, I've even seen some of the cool comic books. Why can't it look like any of that stuff? Right. we start, as you get older, we get a little more discriminating. And I wanted to sell to the discriminating buyer, which was me. I go, I'm not buying Ken Griffey Jr. that doesn't look like Ken Griffey Jr. I am not buying Derek Jeter in a pose that he has never been in his entire fucking life. I will not buy that to it. And they swore to me. I talked to people that were working at those companies. They swore to me they were looking at reference. Oh yeah? Well, then you guys must be going to the school Helen Keller, because you guys must be hiring blind sculptors then, because the blind sculptors aren't looking at the reference I'm looking at, but you guys do you. So look at, here's a thing that has both irritated me and been good for my career, is like, why do I get the credit that I do for doing the obvious things? It's crazy to me. So you want to look smart? People call me smart from time to time. Hang out with dumb people. I don't know why they were so dumb for so long, but if you guys want to make me look smarter than I am, thank you, right? To all the dumb companies out there that were trying to save pennies. I didn't play the same game. I just wanted to look good. And all of a sudden I'm the genius because it looks like a photo. Okay, cool.
You won a Primetime Emmy for Spawn the Animated Series, and you won a Grammy for directing Korn's Freak Unleashed music video.
Yep.
What do these awards mean to you as far as your career?
Here's really sort of the biggest thing that they mean is that you can, I don't care, because I know I got to go and earn my keep the very next day, right? And that was yesterday. So what? So I hit a home run yesterday. But the question is, what are you doing today, Todd? You're up to the plate, bases loaded. Who cares about yesterday? Here's where it does matter, though. The average person knows when you say those words, Emmy, Grammy, they go, wow, that's pretty prestigious, isn't it? And so what they do, and I'm not saying it's right, but they do it, they give you instant street cred, right? So if you use certain words, hey, I won an Emmy, Grammy, they're like, oh, you must be good, right? Oh, hey, we make toys for the NFL and for Matrix and for Superman and Batman. Oh, man, I've heard of all those. They let you make it. Oh, you must have a big company. Your company must be good. So what it does is it allows you to get into rooms and then expand on your other ideas of going, hey, I do this and I do this and I do this. And it also at times allows me, and I've got a healthy ego, just so everybody knows, right? Matter of fact, some people will write dissertations about it. I've got a healthy ego, but it allows me to basically, when I need to, pump out my chest, right? And I get to go, like when I'm trying to do something, they go, Todd, you've never done that before and you can't do it, whatever, right? I get to go, guys, I didn't know anything about comic books. And I went to work for Marvel, and for the best-selling comic book by a single creator at Marvel or DC in corporate land, I own that record. And then we went and started Image, and I did a character called Spawn. That's non-corporate. Forget that it's by a single creator, just an independent superhero comic book on its own. I own that record. I own the corporate and the non-corporate record. And then I knew nothing about animation, and I've got a fucking Emmy. And I know nothing about music. I can't even read music, and I've got a Grammy. And then I made toys, and I go up against some of the biggest giants. And a couple of years ago, they gave me this much of the DC multiverse compared to this much that was evolved. And with that piece, I outsold Star Wars and Marvel and that big piece. So the question is, this other thing you're saying I can't do, I wouldn't bet against me, right? I did those other things and it worked. Why won't this one work? Why magically is this creative business opportunity any different than those other ones? I'm just crazy enough to think I can succeed in almost anything I put my mind to. And if you want to bet against me, then let's go, dudes, because I will go and do it on my own and I will keep the money myself. Please do me the favor and say no today so that I can compete against you and keep it. I'm here today offering you a portion of it. I don't know. Guys, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm okay. Either way, yes or no. I just need an answer today. Are you with me or are you against me? Because I need to know what kind of weapons I'm building. But anyway, that's a personality and the delusion at times that I have, that I think that I can succeed. There's never a day that I wake up that I think that I'm going to fail at anything. That even when I do, I played college baseball, right, at a high level. You think I went up to the plate ever, and hundreds of at-bats ever, thinking that I was going to be less than the pitcher on the mound? Shit. There was one pitcher I thought was better than me. Did they beat me sometimes to strike me out 2-3 times, sometimes in one game? Yeah, sure. But not for 1 second in that game did I ever think they were better than me, even when they were striking me out. And then at the end of the game, I had to be mature about it, and I had to tip my hat. And I had to go, all right, it was your day today. And my attitude is, let's see you on the field tomorrow. See if you can do it a second day, right? Let's go. So I don't know, but again, it's a personality, and you're just born with it or you're not, right? There's never a day that I haven't been like this, much to the chagrin of my mom. So it's just, I came out of the womb with this delusion of grandeur, and it's at times been frustrating to my wife and people, but it also has been the thing that's allowed me to just sort of persevere and just be blind to it's a steep road to get there. I don't care. Let's go. Odds are against you. I don't care. Let's go.
It's been a badass interview. We're on our last question. Is there something that you haven't talked about that you want the fans to know about? Any upcoming projects, any Spawn announcements, any upcoming appearances, any more stories you want to tell us?
The only thing I would add is we're doing some of the cool stuff on the comic book side. Get prepared, because as we near the end of this year, we're going to be having what I call the 50-50-50. Issue 50 of King Spawn, issue 50 of Gunslinger, and issue 50 of the Scorch, right? Those 3 books started, and so issue 50 of King Spawn is going to come out. They're going to be a month off. Gunslinger 50 is coming out, month off. Scorch 50 is coming out, a month off. So in 5 months, there's going to be 3 50s. And so we're just in the middle of doing the marketing and creatively what all that's going to mean. So it's going to be a fun thing at the end of the year that we'll be able to do. And it also is going to prove that people go, what? I thought those books just started just not long ago. And they're already up to issue 50. And I keep saying to people, you should be doing at least 50 issues of your own book. But that's me sort of screaming from a mountaintop, and I have my reasons why I use that number. But I'm going to have 3 myself. So here we go. I'm going to have, and then Spawn is going to be way past issue 350. So we'll have 7 times 50. So I'm going to have 10 50s on my side. And I think the rest of the industry is going to have 8 combined. So,
man.
So that means either Todd's really, 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 really good. I wouldn't say that. Or you guys got to pick it up. You guys got to pick it up on the other side. So,
man, you're more than really good. You are legendary. Todd, thank you so much for joining us. This has been more than a bucket list interview for us. My first ever YouTube anything was just a video about your life. So the fact that 4 years later that I'm interviewing you, it's crazy. So thank you so much. Just know you always have a home here on the Sig Slayers Station. Thank you, Todd.
You guys, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and keep it up. I hope it grows.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for our show. If you like what you see, please subscribe and hit the like button. This is Sig Slayers. I'm Mike, speaking for Mark and Todd McFarlane. We are out. Peace.
Sig Slayers.